Charles Henry Clarkson, a story with a cliffhanger at the end of the tale. He was born on the 20th of March 1890 at 18 Fishergate, York. Moved with his job as a cabinet maker to teach woodwork at Manigate School in Wakefield. He and his wife Doris moved to 391 Barnsley Road, Wakefield, West Yorkshire. Enlisted into the Royal Flying Corps on 1st June 1915, aged 25. He joined number 40 training group at South East Croydon as a chief master mechanic. He was licensed as a ground engineer of aircraft. This is his license, number 83, issued on 4th July 1919. So there were only 82 before him. The license specifically authorised the holder for adjustment of rigging for flying, all single-engine types of aeroplane. This allowed aeroplane construction for periodic overhaul, Avro types, Echo 6, Sopwith Camel, and Bristol Fighter aeroplanes. He was based at East Croydon on an airfield known as Beddington and occasionally Wallington. At that time, there were only timber and canvas bassoon hangars, which were rapidly constructed, ready to accept the first detachment of aircraft designated for the airfield. These were two BE-2Cs, which arrived at Royal Flying Corps Station Beddington in January 1916. The aircraft had two pilots only. My grandfather was one of 6 aircraft engineers, and there were a group of Royal engineers equipped with a searchlight. The pilots were expected to take shifts in sleeping alongside the aircraft in hearing distance of a telephone that had a direct line connection to the War Office. The War Office would issue warnings of impending airship air raids. They were particularly concerned about Zeppelin raids. Grandfather outside this sergeant's mess. Initially, the Royal Flying Corps found it very difficult to successfully defend or bring down a Zeppelin. The aircraft of the time had limited capabilities and limited armaments. The BE-2C could reach a maximum altitude of 10,000 feet, and it would take over 45 minutes to do so. Zeppelins would generally cruise at a higher altitude of 12,000 feet, making it virtually impossible for the RFC aircraft to engage with German airships. The weaponry in early 1916 was also not up to the job of disabling or bringing down an airship. It was not until 3rd September 1916, when new weaponry was available to the RFC, that a Zeppelin airship was finally shot down. There were practice sorties attacking barrage flumes as a deterrent against Zeppelin raids. As the war continued, additional aircraft were stationed at Croydon, including Sopwith Camels, Sopwith Pups, Avro 504s, and Bristol Fighters. Aircraft from Croydon were launched against the marauding German Zeppelins on the 31st March and 2nd April, but again the mission proved to be unsuccessful in engaging with the airships. Chief flying instructor on site was Charles Kingsford Smith. We'll hear more of him later. This is a variety of planes that will need maintenance. The airfield moved primarily to a training role, and Grandpa was involved in repairs and maintenance, such as fixing gun mountings and camera mounting. Being a training group, there are a few accidents needing repairs. Whoops. Oh, further ups. And this one was beyond repair. There were times of relaxation and possibly placing a few bets at the nearby racecourse. The training group continued training for the Zeppelin raids, so some of their sorties involved taking photos of the British Airship No. 23 over London. This airship was 535 feet long, 53 feet in diameter, and had a maximum speed of 52 miles per hour. Built by Vickers at Barrow, It was launched in 1917 as a deterrent to the Zeppelin threat. It flew over central London on 6 December, bringing the city to a standstill and generating a wave of patriotic fervour. Despite the airship's identification markings being clearly visible to millions of Londoners, they mistook it as a Zeppelin. Here are a few spectacular photos of this airship flying over London on that day. If you look carefully, you'll be able to see Victoria Monument and Buckingham Palace to the left side with St James's Park. Airship 23 over Westminster Abbey and the Houses of Parliament. On the 1st of April 1918, the Royal Flying Corps and the Royal Naval Air Service were merged to form the Royal Air Force. The RAF station at Croydon was deemed to be surplus to requirements, and the site was vacated in February 1920. The aerodrome was handed over to civilian commercial operations and became Britain's primary airport on the 29th March 1920. My grandfather was promoted to Warrant Officer First Class in April 1920, and on 26th April he was transferred out of the RAF to the Reserve. The following announcement was made in the London Gazette, a supplement of the Times. Tuesday, 23rd January 1919. Service in the Air Ministry missed a mention. The following officers and other ranks of the RAF have been brought to the notice of the Secretary of State in respect of the valuable services they have rendered in connection with the war, and a record to the effect will be made in the official records. 5382, Chief Mechanic Charles Henry Clarkson. Winston Churchill often visited the aerodrome. In his books, Thoughts and Adventures, he gives an account of his flying lesson at Croydon Aerodrome during 1919. Churchill gives a vivid recollection of one of his final flying lessons that resulted in a brutal crash. Fortunately for Britain, and due to the skills of his very capable flying instructor, Colonel Scott, it was a crash he survived. The aerodrome, renamed Croydon International Airport, became the first purpose-built airport terminal and saw a host of daring and record-breaking flights. Many aviators and aviatrixes became global celebrities due to their record-breaking flights. Women such as Amy Johnson and Jean Batten became household names and competed alongside their male counterparts such as Jim Mollison, Charles Kingsford Smith, and Sir Alan Cobham. And the cliffhanger I promised. Same plane but different angle. This was a very lucky escape. An Avro on Dover cliffs. Look at the size of that ladder. Hope the pilot got out okay. This was a time of constant fear of invasion by Zeppelins and dangerous aerial combat in flimsy machines, with some friends not returning. You may wonder what life was like. In a letter to Grandpa received in November 1933 from Charles Kingsford Smith, the flying instructor and later famed aviator, he says, "I can assure you that I often think of the old days with much pleasure and still have a collection of photographs which are a vivid reminder of the hard but happy times we had then."